May it please the court,
Yes.
opposing counsel, members of the jury. Good afternoon. This is the first opportunity that I have had to speak with you directly, so I wanted to take this opportunity to reintroduce myself to you. My name is Tara Kawas, and I, along with Christopher DeCos, we have the honor and privilege of representing Hakeem Robinson. Now, the government just got up here and told you that they're going to prove to you, beyond and to the exclusion of all reasonable doubt, that Hakeem Robinson is the person who shot and killed Charles McCormick on January 15th of 2020. For members of the jury, they are not going to be able to do that because Hakeem Robinson is innocent. And you are going to be able to see that for yourselves, that there is no way that Hakeem Robinson is the person that shot and killed Charles McCormick. In order to try and prove their case, they're going to ask you to do something that I've never seen before. They're going to ask you to not believe your eyes. They're going to ask you to ignore what you see right in front of you. Because as the government just told you, there is a video recording of this homicide, and you're going to be able to see it, and you're going to be able to watch it. You are going to see a person, someone, covered from head, or whatever's on top of his head, to toe, completely covered, chase down Charles McCormick in broad daylight and shoot him to death. And this was done in front of a bunch of witnesses. And the most important question in this case is going to be, who is the shooter? Who is the shooter? Members of the jury, that is the shooter. That is a still shot from the video that you will be presented with this during the course of this trial. And what these prosecutors are going to ask you to do is to find that Hakeem Robinson, who's clearly well above 6 feet tall and a heavier set person, and was like that 5 years ago, is that person. And it's not just that. They are going to ask you to ignore the descriptions given by each and every person that saw the shooter live. And members of the jury, these witnesses, each and every one of them are going to give you a description somewhere between 5'5" and 5'11". The other description they're going to give you, each of these witnesses that saw this person: slim, slender, thinner. And all those witnesses, they're going to ask you, the government, these unbiased civilian witnesses, discredit them. Don't believe them. They were wrong. The witnesses that they're going to ask you to believe are the ones who are actually involved in this murder. That's right. One by one, they are going to be walking them in here, some of them through that back door. Each one of them, hoping and praying to get some benefit from them. The people that hold all of the power to charge someone, to arrest someone, to drop charges. Then, all of these people are going to point the finger and go, the shooter is Hakeem. They are now going to present you one piece of reliable, direct evidence that definitively proves that Hakeem Robinson is a shooter. It's just going to be based on the lies of the people who actually committed this murder. This, members of the jury, is Hakeem Robinson. Stand up, Hakeem. He is a young, aspiring, talented musician who 5 years ago was wrenched from his family, his life, and his promising career. All because the government refused to look at literally what is right in front of them. And this is why I've asked Hakeem Robinson to stand up in front of you right now, members of the jury. Because you may not have taken too much notice over the past 3 days. Each and every time you walked into the courtroom and you left and we stood up, you didn't realize at that time how important it was to take a look at how tall Hakeem Robinson is and how big he is. But it is going to be the focal point of this trial. Because once you watch that video in the entirety, and then you look at what is standing right in front of you, and you're going to get pictures and stuff around the time that this took place. He hasn't changed, despite what Mr. Cooper is telling you. he is the same. There will be no doubt in your mind that he is not the person that shot and killed Charles McCormick. So how do we get here? You can have a seat, Hakeem. How do we get here where a clearly innocent person is being accused of a crime that he did not commit? And it boils down to perception versus reality. Because you're going to see that Hakeem Robinson, he wasn't arrested until 9 months after the murder. And none of them realized how big he is until he was arrested. But by that time, instead of admitting to the mistake that they made and pulling back and doing an investigation to find out who really did it, they doubled down. And they started to build their case and their witnesses around the idea and the belief that it was Hakeem Robinson that was the shooter. Now, on 5 years ago, January 15th, 2020, right on the brink of the world shutting down, right before the COVID-19 virus, Charles McCormick woke up in the morning, headed to Employment Express Agency on Merrill Road to follow up with getting a job. Little did he know that a man named Dominique Barno, and I'm going to say this name for the first time, I'm not sure why the state didn't mention this to you, and his friend Chris Brown had been stalking Charles McCormick that day. Dominique Barno is the one who was checking his Instagram account to see if he was in town that day. Dominique Barno is the one who pulled up his address on the court clerk's website to find out where he lived. He is the one that then tried to track him down and kill him that morning. You will hear that the reason Dominique Barno decided that he wanted to have Charles McCormick killed was all because of a song that he didn't like the lyrics to. The whole story that Mr. Cooper failed to mention to you, members of the jury, is that Mr. Barno will just tell you, I just didn't like that he was singing something he didn't know about. That's the reason why Charles McCormick is dead. And this man, members of the jury, Dominique Barno, the man who planned and orchestrated the murder of Charles McCormick, is going to be the government's star witness in this case. That is the person who they cut a court and lied in official proceeding. And I'm talking about, members of the jury, you are going to hear that he lied to police officers. You are going to hear that he lied to prosecutors. You are going to hear that he lied in depositions. You're going to hear that he lied to defense attorneys. More important, you are going to hear that he took the stand in another case and lied in a hearing in front of a judge. And he's going to tell you the reason he did that, because he wanted the defendant to go free so he could kill him himself. That is their star witness who they're going to ask you to believe. This man was caught red-handed within 24 hours of the murder of Charles McCormick. And months go by of him denying his involvement. And when he realized that who they thought the shooter was, Hakeem Robinson, he pounced on it. He was like, this is how I'm going to get out of here. He decided he was going to lie to the government to get what he wanted, which is the hope of freedom. All he had to do and all he had to say was that Hakeem Robinson is the person behind that mask. And in exchange, I know Mr. Cooper was saying, oh, he's facing life, and that the judge hasn't sentenced him yet. But members of the jury, he's going to tell you the reasons he's doing this, because before this, he was facing mandatory life in prison. He would have died in prison. And in exchange for pointing the finger at Hakeem Robinson, he is hoping to get out in 20 years. Mind you, he's already served 5 of it. So in 15 years, he is hoping to go free. And Dominic Barnell, not going to be the only one. Another witness that they are going to put on this witness stand and ask you to believe, a man by the name of Abdul Robinson Sr., aka Blue. Now, Mr. Cooper got up here and told you that this man is Hakeem's father, his biological father, but the whole truth is, members of the jury, he's just Hakeem's DNA contributor. The truth is, he has 9 other children by 5 different women that we know about. He has probably fathered a significant percentage of the men or women in Duval County. He was never involved in Hakeem's early life and only came around when Hakeem started to become a little recognized, a little famous with his music, and he started to make some real money. He actually tried to become Hakeem's manager. As you will learn in this trial, in 2020, Hakeem was a local celebrity. He was a rap musician. And you're going to see that it was Blue is going to do what he's doing in this case. He uses people, and he was trying to use Hakeem. He is using the prosecutors in this case to get out of the 2 murder cases that we know that he have committed. He, just like Dominic Barnell, was caught red-handed in this case. He is the person that Dominic Barnell called for help to pick him and Leroy Whitaker up after they had broken into Barbara Buckley's home. But what you're also going to hear, members of the jury, and what is most important, this is not the first time that Dominic Barner and Blue have done this. That's right. Dominic Barner and Blue are co-defendants in a completely separate homicide case. They're co-defendants in that case, and they're co-defendants in this case. And you're going to learn that Blue, this ain't his first time cooperating with law enforcement. He's done that before, so he has experience. He knows that when he is in trouble and he is caught, if I say what the government wants to hear, I get out. He's done it before, and he's going to do it again in this courtroom. And what's more troubling with Blue, members of the jury, in exchange for his testimony in this case, he is hoping to get 76 months. 76 months. He's already served 60. So in less than 2 years, he is hoping to be back on the streets of Duval County. Now, Mr. Cooper just got up there and said the testimony against Hakeem being involved in this murder is going to be corroborated by reliable evidence. It is not. None of the credible, reliable evidence that he's going to bring in here says that Hakeem Robinson is the guy in that picture. Another one of the witnesses that they're going to bring in front of you, another one that was in that little diagram that they showed, Torrigan Williams. And this is even worse, members of the jury, because their own lead detective is going to tell you they've known for 5 years that Torrigan Williams was involved in this homicide. Dominic Barnell, years ago, told them Torrigan Williams was involved, but he gets a full pass. He's not walking through that door. He's walking through that door. Never been arrested, full-blown immunity for his testimony in this case. And you wonder, wait, why would that happen 5 years later? Well, that's because Torrigan Williams last year got arrested for trafficking in meth. That's the first time he decided to come forward and go, hey, wait a second, I'm in trouble. Prosecutors, I think I have information that you might want. And by this time, members of the jury, 4 years have passed, and this case was plastered all over the internet for anyone to look up and see what they needed to find out about what they needed to say. After he decided to give a statement against Hakeem Robinson, what did? They drop his state case. Dismissed, no action. Then the federal government decided to pick up his case. And Mr. Williams, if they call him to testify, is going to tell you, well, I'm hoping that the feds are going to be a little lenient on me because I am helping in this homicide case. Not one of their witnesses, members of the jury that take the stand, that tried to point the finger at Hakeem Robinson, not one of them are unbiased. Each one of them that are going to walk in here have some angle. They either are trying to help themselves, to get themselves out of their trouble with the government, or something for a loved one. Each one of them that points the finger in some way, shape, or form to Hakeem Robinson is hoping to get something, and not something small, freedom. But members of the jury, what Mr. DeCoste and I are going to ask you to do is to listen to the reliable, credible witnesses in this case. Because what you will see that all the reliable witnesses say was that actually the shooter, they actually saw them with his own eyes, as I told you before. Slim, slender, 5'8" to 5'11". Some of them say 5'5" to 5'8". Notice that not once, when Mr. Cooper was giving his opening statement, did he give you a description. I'm having to tell you that. And I'm talking about not just civilians, I'm talking about trained police officers. We'll talk about Officer Collins, the one who took chase. You notice when Mr. Cooper was talking to you? Oh, well, you know, he was far away. He was jumping the fence and didn't get a good look. He's getting you guys ready to make excuses for why the description does not match Hakeem Robinson, and not even close. Officer Collins is a trained police officer, been doing this for 20 years, knows how to give information like that so that other people, other officers who are listening, he knows to give reliable information. He may come up in here now, 5 years later, and try to backpedal, members of the jury. Not sure, I don't remember. But you remember what he said at the time. That's the most reliable. Before everyone realized that the descriptions, wait, they don't match. And it's not just him. It's not just Officer Collins. You're going to hear from Officer Graham, another one who saw the shooter in this case. You know what his description was? 21-year veteran with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, 5'8" to 5'10". Now, those are just the officers. Next, we're going to talk about the civilian witnesses. You're going to hear from Victor Kruger. Mr. Cooper mentioned him. He's the guy with the dash cam in his vehicle, the person that was probably the closest to the shooting, who, and he's right, by happenstance, just happened to have this video recording on his dash cam when this happened. But what did you not hear in the state's opening statement? Mr. Kruger gave a description. You want to know what that description was? 5'10" to 5'11", and he was thin. Clearly not Hakeem Robinson. Not the only one. Javaris Roberts, who worked in the Hibet Sports in that strip mall, described the shooter as 5'8" to 5'9", on the skinnier side. Then we've got Aber Ahmad, a woman who was in her garage having coffee in the morning, sees someone matching the shooter's description, jump a fence and walk right in front of her. She describes him as shorter than 6 feet. But the most important one, Renata Boston. If you recall when Mr. Cooper was talking, he mentioned that the shooter ran through some woods and came out on the other side, and that magically Natalie Gant was there to pick up the shooter because she knew where he was. He didn't mention what Renata Boston described the shooter to look at, because she saw him come out of the woods. Slim build, 5'8" to 5'9", between 160 to 170 pounds. That is not even close to Hakeem Robinson. Multiple independent civilian witnesses, multiple police officers, all describing someone that could not possibly be Hakeem Robinson. And all their testimony, all of them, the ones whose testimony isn't bought with a promise of freedom, they're all consistent. It's clearly not him. The only eyewitnesses that will say that the shooter is Hakeem are the ones who have cut deals with the government. And they're not going to just present these eyewitnesses to you. As Mr. Cooper said, they're going to present all this other stuff, but take a close look at the details of what they present to you. Because not one piece of that evidence is going to be direct evidence that Hakeem Robinson is a shooter. Let's start with the cell phone evidence, because it's going to be a lot. All the records that they're going to produce to you, all the cell phone records that definitively show 100% Dominique Barna using his phone, Leroy Whitaker using his phone, Abdul Robinson Jr. using his phone, Abdul Robinson Sr. using his phone. All of them are communicating with each other. You know whose phone isn't being used? Or they don't have a record of being used at all? Hakeem Robinson. Mr. Cooper just got up here and told you that he's going to try to put a phone in the possession of Hakeem Robinson, a phone number that begins with 478. You know whose phone that's registered to? Abdul Robinson Sr., aka Blues, former dead best friend. That phone is registered to his father, not to him. And you're going to see that that phone the day before was pinging in the same place that his father was. They're going to try to make you think and connect that phone to Hakeem Robinson, and they will be unable to do so. Next up, fingerprints and DNA. They're going to try to present you with DNA and fingerprint evidence trying to put Hakeem in that car on that day. But members of the jury, their own expert will tell you, their experts are going to tell you, we have no idea when that DNA was left there, or how. We have no idea how that fingerprint, when or where it got there. All that proves to you, members of the jury, is Hakeem Robinson knows Leroy Whitaker. They're cousins. They hang out together. That's a fact that we're not disputing. And what did Mr. Cooper fail to tell you? That DNA was found on a t-shirt that was in the car. It's not just Hakeem Robinson's DNA. The expert is going to tell you that it's mixed up with 3 other people that I don't know who it is that's on that shirt. Then they're going to tell you that, well, I'm going to tell you that the evidence will show that a man's DNA was found in that car. That's going to say, I don't know how my DNA got in there, but it's there. Someone that is completely disassociated with this case. All that's going to prove, members of the jury, is that Hakeem Robinson, Leroy Whitaker, Torgon Williams, they're all friends and that they know each other. He told you that car was had been reported stolen for 2 months. They had been all in and out of that car. That DNA and that fingerprint does not place him in the car on the day of the murder. You're going to hear about all of the DNA that they have been unable to identify or match with someone else. But members of the jury, what I do want you to know is, even though Hakeem hung out with all these guys and he grew up with them and stuff, Hakeem was different because he was making it. Charles McCormick, they said he put out that song. He didn't put out a song. I mean, no one knew about that song. I mean, he tried to release it. He wasn't on the level of Hakeem Robinson, AKA, you're going to hear this name a lot throughout the course of the trial, Ksoo. And what you're going to hear, members of the jury, which is going to be very important, 4 days before the murder of Charles McCormick, Hakeem Robinson was signed to a record label that gave him a $40,000 advance. 4 days before. He was making it, he was leaving, he was doing his music. All of these people, though, they wanted to be around him. They wanted to share in his fame. But Hakeem cannot be put in this just because he hung around with the wrong people and was friends with them. He is not responsible for what they did in their free time. And even the government, well, I thought the government would agree that you cannot convict someone by association. And that is true, members of the jury. Guilty by association has no place in this courtroom. Mr. Cooper also mentioned something about a social media post. But members of the jury, when you view these pieces of evidence, please take them into context. He said it happened right after he made this post, 7 days after he made this post, okay? And it's all assumption and speculation with the phrase that he used. He is trying to say that that is somehow a confession. That post didn't say, hey, I killed Charles McCormick. He's going to ask you to imply that when he mentioned that had something to do with the murder that happened before that he had nothing to do with. But members of the jury, what we are going to ask, and this is what I'm just going to ask, we are at the beginning of this case, you haven't heard any of the evidence or seen any of the evidence yet. All I ask of you, each of you, is to please just pay close attention and really listen. Because when you strip away all the evidence that isn't either bought with money or the promise of freedom, the truth is going to be staring you right in your face. Focus on the credible, reliable, unbiased testimony from the witnesses, coupled with what you can see right in front of them. More importantly, your common sense. Because that is what you will need to see the truth in this case, because it is not him, members of the jury. Mr. Cooper talked about the fact that this case is going to be a puzzle and that you'll be able to see a picture at the end. But I'm going to tell you this, members of the jury. If one piece of that puzzle doesn't fit, it is not guilty. Do not shave the pieces of those puzzles to try to force it to fit. because when you look, you are going to see the description does not match Hakeem Robinson, not even close. Now, members of the jury, there is a reason why the framers of the Constitution, this country's Constitution, ensured that the government would not have too much control over the freedom of the citizens they are meant to protect. And that was by giving the final word, not to the court, not to the state, but to you. People are innately flawed in that they sometimes can't see the truth when it's staring them right in front of their face, or they can't admit it when they've made a mistake. You are 12 members of this community, 15 members of this community, who have promised to look at this case through fresh eyes. That is all we beg of you, to objectively look at the evidence that is presented to you in this case. Because when you listen to all the credible, reliable evidence in this case, it's only going to prove to you one thing. Hakeem Robinson is innocent. Find him not guilty. Thank you.